Black intern gets $100 million black card from billionaire CEO. But what he wants in return shocks her. Would you trade your values for success? Before we begin, how would you react if someone gave you unlimited power but asked for your soul in return? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe if you love stories that challenge your heart and mind. Zaria Monroe, a brilliant caramel-skinned graduate from South Carolina, bold, driven, and beautiful in every room she walks into. When she lands an elite internship at one of the most powerful tech firms in America, she has no idea her life is about to change forever. Her boss, Blaze Remington, is a ruthless, self-made billionaire with eyes as cold as Wall Street winter and secrets deeper than federal vaults. When he gifts Zaria a black card loaded with $100 million, she's stunned. But what he asks of her in return sets off a chain of events that challenges everything she believes. Before we begin, I would be glad to know that these lessons get to people in different parts of the world, so please let me know where you're watching from. Thank you for being part of this growing community. Let us begin. Zaria Monroe stepped off the elevator into the gleaming lobby of Remtech's headquarters, her heels clicking against the polished marble floor. The air buzzed with ambition, sharp and electric, as employees in tailored suits moved with purpose. At 23, with a fresh degree from Clemson and a hunger that burned brighter than her caramel skin under the morning sun, Zaria felt like an imposter in this world of wealth and power. Her reflection in the glass walls showed a woman who belonged, shoulders squared, hair pulled into a sleek bun, eyes fierce with determination. But inside, her heart raced. She was the only black intern in a sea of privilege, and the weight of that truth pressed against her chest. The receptionist, a woman with a smile as crisp as her blazer, handed Zaria a badge. 37th floor. Don't keep Mr. Remington waiting. Her tone carried a warning, as if tardiness was a sin that could cost more than a job. Zaria nodded, clutching her portfolio tighter, and stepped into the elevator. The ride up felt endless, each ding of the floors amplifying her nerves. She'd spent months preparing for this internship, clawing her way through interviews and late-night study sessions, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality of Remtech. This was the epicenter of innovation, a tech empire that shaped industries, and she was now a part of it, or at least she hoped to be. The elevator doors opened to a hallway lined with glass offices, where men and women in headsets barked orders like generals. Zaria's destination was the boardroom at the far end, its frosted glass doors looming like a gateway to judgment. She smoothed her skirt, took a breath, and pushed them open. Inside, the room was a cathedral of power, a long mahogany table stretched beneath a chandelier that glittered like a constellation. At the head sat Blaze Remington, the billionaire CEO whose name was synonymous with Remtech's dominance. He was younger than Zaria expected, mid-40s maybe, with a jawline carved from stone and eyes that seemed to dissect everything they touched. His charcoal suit fit like a second skin, and the way he leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, made the room feel smaller. "Ms. Monroe," he said, his voice low and deliberate, like a predator sizing up its prey. "You're late." Zaria froze. She wasn't late. Her watch confirmed she was 3 minutes early, but the accusation hung in the air, unchallenged by the other executives around the table. Their eyes, a mix of curiosity and judgment, pinned her in place. "I'm sorry, Mr. Remington," she said, keeping her voice steady. "I was told to be here at 9. He tilted his head, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "Time moves faster here. Sit." She took the only empty chair, acutely aware of the silence that followed. The other interns, 3 men and 1 woman, all white, all polished, watched her with thinly veiled scrutiny. Zarya set her portfolio on the table, her fingers brushing the leather to ground herself. "Let's cut to it," Blaze said, leaning forward. "You're here because you're supposed to be the best, but being the best on paper means nothing if you can't survive this room." His gaze locked onto Zarya, ignoring the others. "Tell me, Ms. Monroe, why should I trust someone who hasn't failed enough?" The question hit like a jab. Zarya's mind raced, parsing his words for traps. He wasn't asking about her resume. He was probing her soul. She thought of her mother working double shifts at the diner to pay for her tuition, and the nights she'd cried herself to sleep after failing her first coding exam. Failure wasn't abstract to her. It was the crucible that forged her. "Because failure taught me how to stand without leaning," she said, meeting his gaze. "I've fallen, Mr. Remington, but I've never stayed down." A ripple of surprise passed through the room. One of the interns, a blond man with a smug grin, shifted uncomfortably. Blaze's smirk widened, but his eyes remained cold, unreadable. "Bold words," he said. "We'll see if you can back them up." The meeting moved on, a blur of corporate jargon and projections, but Zarya felt Blaze's attention linger on her like a spotlight. When it ended, the other interns filed out, whispering among themselves, but Blaze raised a hand. "Miss Monroe, stay." Her stomach twisted. Alone with him, the boardroom felt like a chessboard, and she was a pawn awaiting his next move. He stood, circling the table with the grace of a panther, and stopped beside her. "You're not like the others," he said, his voice softer now, almost intimate. "They're hungry, but you're starving. I can see it in your eyes." Zarya's throat tightened. "I just want to prove myself." "Oh, you will," he said, leaning closer. "But not in the ways you think. This internship isn't about code or reports. It's about loyalty. Can you give me that?" She hesitated, sensing an undercurrent in his words. "I'm loyal to my work," she said carefully. He chuckled, a sound that sent a chill down her spine. "Work is a means, not an end. You'll learn that soon enough." Before she could respond, he pulled a sleek black card from his pocket and slid it across the table. It gleamed under the chandelier, its surface embossed with her name in gold. An American Express Centurion card, the kind reserved for the world's elite. "What is this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "A gift," Blaze said. $100 million, yours to spend. No strings attached. For now. Her breath caught. The card felt like a live wire in her hand, pulsing with possibility and danger. "Why me?" "Because you're different," he said, his eyes boring into hers. "And I need someone different." Zarya's mind spun. $100 million could change everything. Pay off her mother's debts, fund her own startup, lift her family out of struggle. But Blaze's tone, his cryptic words, screamed of a catch she couldn't yet see. "What do you want in return?" she asked, forcing her voice to stay steady. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Loyalty, Ms. Monroe. Absolute, unwavering loyalty. You'll know the details when the time comes." He turned and walked out, leaving her alone with the card and 1,000 questions. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Penthouse access granted. 432 Park Avenue. Be there tonight." Zarya stared at the message, her pulse racing. She'd heard of the penthouse, a billionaire's playground atop one of New York's tallest buildings. Why was Blaze giving her access? What game was he playing? She slipped the card into her purse, its weight a constant reminder of the choice she now faced. As she left the boardroom, the other interns watched her from the hallway, their whispers sharp with envy. One of them, the blond man from earlier, stepped into her path. "Careful, Monroe," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're playing with fire, and you're not the only one who can get burned." "Get out of my way, Ethan," she said, brushing past him. She'd overheard his name during the meeting, and she wasn't about to let his jealousy slow her down. Back at her temporary desk in the open plan office, Zaria tried to focus on her first assignment, a data analysis project, but her mind kept drifting to the card. She Googled the Centurion card, confirming its limitless potential, but every article hinted at exclusivity tied to power and influence. Blaze wasn't just giving her money. He was pulling her into his world. Her phone buzzed again. Another text. Don't tell anyone about the card. Trust no one. The warning sent a shiver through her. Was Blaze watching her? Or was someone else? She glanced around the office, but no one seemed to notice her. Still, the feeling of being observed clung to her like damp cloth. By late afternoon, Zaria's curiosity and dread overpowered her caution. She left the office early, taking a cab to 432 Park Avenue. The building towered over Manhattan, its minimalist design a stark contrast to the chaos of the city below. The doorman, expecting her, escorted her to a private elevator that shot straight to the penthouse. The doors opened to a world of opulence. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a panoramic view of the city, sparkling under the setting sun. The penthouse was furnished with sleek leather and marble, every detail screaming wealth. A bottle of champagne sat on a glass table beside a note in Blaze's sharp handwriting. Welcome to your new life. Enjoy it while it lasts. Zaria's heart pounded. This wasn't a gift, it was a test. She wandered the penthouse, her reflection distorted in the mirrored walls. In the master bedroom, she found a closet stocked with designer clothes in her size, dresses, suits, shoes, all tailored to her. It was as if Blaze had planned this for months. Her phone rang, startling her. The caller ID showed Blaze's name. Enjoying the view? He asked, his voice smooth as silk. How did you know I was here? She demanded. I know everything about you, Zaria, he said. Your dreams, your fears, your potential. That's why I chose you. For what? She pressed, her voice rising. What do you want from me? Patience, he said. You'll find out tomorrow. For now, rest. You'll need your strength. The line went dead. Zaria sank onto the bed, the black card burning a hole in her purse. She was in over her head, caught in a web she couldn't see. Blaze's words echoed in her mind. Absolute, unwavering loyalty. What did that mean? Was he asking for her soul, her silence, or something worse? As night fell, Zaria stood at the window, the city's lights a dazzling distraction from the storm in her heart. She thought of her mother, her sacrifices, and the promise Zaria had made to make her proud. Could she do that in Blaze's world, where every gift came with a price? A knock at the door jolted her. She froze, her pulse spiking. The doorman hadn't mentioned visitors. She approached the door, her hand trembling as she reached for the handle. Whoever was on the other side, she knew one thing. Her life was about to change again. What would you do with a $100 million black card? Drop your answers in the comments. The knock at the penthouse door echoed like a gunshot in Zaria Monroe's ears. Her hand hovered over the handle, every instinct screaming caution. The black card in her purse felt heavier now, a tether to Blaze Remington's cryptic promises. She opened the door to find a courier, his face blank, holding a sleek envelope sealed with a wax crest. From Mr. Remington, he said, then vanished down the hall. Inside was an invitation to a gala at the Met, handwritten in Blaze's sharp script. Your presence is non-negotiable. Car arrives at 7 p.m. Zaria's stomach churned. The penthouse, the card, now this. Each gift tightened the invisible noose around her neck. She sank onto the plush sofa, staring at the city's glittering skyline, and wondered how deep she'd fallen into Blaze's game. The next evening, Zaria stepped out of a chauffeured Rolls-Royce, her emerald gown catching the flash of paparazzi cameras. The Met's grand staircase buzzed with New York's elite, senators, tech moguls, and celebrities draped in diamonds. She felt their eyes on her, the only black woman in a sea of wealth, her presence both a curiosity and a challenge. Inside, crystal chandeliers bathed the gala in golden light, but Zaria's focus was on Blaze, who stood across the room, his charcoal suit impeccable, his gaze locked on her. He approached, a glass of champagne in hand. "You clean up well, Miss Monroe," he said, his voice a low purr. "But this isn't a party. It's a stage. Play your part." "What's my role?" she asked, her tone sharper than intended. "Loyalty," he said, leaning closer. "Show these people you belong. Make them believe it. Because I do." His words sent a shiver through her. Before she could press him, a woman interrupted, a striking figure in a crimson dress, her locks cascading over one shoulder. "Zaria, right?" she said, extending a hand. "Camille Dupont. I consult for Remtech." Zaria shook her hand, grateful for the distraction. Camille's warm smile felt like an anchor in the room's cold opulence. "Nice to meet you," Zaria said. "How do you survive this place?" Camille laughed, but her eyes were serious. "By keeping my guard up, you should too." As Blaze melted into the crowd, Zaria and Camille drifted to a quieter corner. Over the next hour, Camille became a lifeline, sharing stories of navigating corporate waters as a black woman. But when Zaria mentioned the black card, Camille's expression darkened. "Girl, ain't nothing free in this world," she said, her voice low. "Not even a billionaire's attention. That card? It's a leash, not a gift." Zaria's throat tightened. "He says he wants loyalty, but he won't tell me what for." Camille glanced around, ensuring no one was listening. "Blay doesn't give without taking. Whatever he's planning, it's big, and you're in the middle of it. Watch your back." The warning lingered as the gala ended. Over the next week, Zaria's life transformed into a whirlwind of privilege. Blaze sent her on a private jet to San Francisco for a tech summit, where she sat in on meetings with CEOs who treated her like an equal. Back in New York, she attended exclusive dinners, her wardrobe now a rotating cast of Chanel and Dior, all courtesy of the penthouse closet. Each event was a test, Blaze's presence a constant shadow. He watched her every move, his eyes dissecting her words, her poise, her ability to charm rooms of power. At a rooftop cocktail party overlooking Central Park, Zaria stood beside Blaze as he introduced her to a senator. "Zaria's our rising star," he said, his hand brushing her elbow. The touch was fleeting but deliberate, and it sent a jolt through her. The senator smiled, oblivious to the tension, but Zaria felt Blaze's gaze like a weight. Later, as guests mingled, she slipped away to the bar, needing air. Camille was there, nursing a martini. "You're glowing out there," Camille said, but her tone was cautious. "Too bright, maybe." "What's that supposed to mean?" Zaria asked, sipping her water. "It means Blaze is parading you like a prize," Camille said, "and prizes get claimed. You feel him watching you, don't you?" Zaria nodded, her chest tight. "Every second. It's like he's waiting for me to slip." "He's not waiting," Camille said. "He's testing, pushing you to see how far you'll go for him." "What's he asked you to do?" "Nothing, yet," Zaria admitted. "But every time I ask, he says, 'Patience. It's driving me crazy.'" Camille leaned closer. "I've seen girls like you come through Remtech, bright, hungry, chosen by Blaze. They either break or become someone else. Don't let him rewrite you." The words hit hard. Zaria thought of her mother, her sacrifices, the promise to stay true to herself. But the card, the jet, the penthouse, they were seductive, blurring the line between ambition and compromise. She wanted to trust Blaze, to believe his faith in her was real, but Camille's warning echoed louder. The next day, Blaze summoned Zarya to his office, a glass-walled fortress on the top floor. He stood by the window, Manhattan sprawling beneath him. "You're exceeding expectations," he said, turning to face her. "But expectations evolve." "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. He stepped closer, his eyes piercing. "I need someone I can trust with everything. My empire, my secrets. Are you that person?" "I don't even know what you're asking," she said, frustration spilling out. "You give me a card, a penthouse, all this, but you won't tell me why." He smiled, cold and calculating. "You'll know soon. For now, there's a meeting in Dubai. You're coming with me. Pack light." "Dubai?" she repeated, stunned. "What's in Dubai?" "The future," he said, his tone final. "Be ready tomorrow." As she left his office, her phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. "He's watching." So are they. Her blood ran cold. Who were they? Was Camille right about the leash, or was someone else pulling strings? That night, alone in the penthouse, Zarya stared at the black card on the table. It was a key to a world she dreamed of, but every door it opened led deeper into Blaze maze. She thought of Camille's warning, of her mother's voice telling her to stay strong. The gala, the jet, the meetings, they were intoxicating, but the cost was creeping closer. A soft chime from her phone broke the silence. An email from an anonymous sender containing a single line. "Ask him about Project Echelon." Zarya's breath hitched. What was Echelon, and who was feeding her clues? As she packed for Dubai, her mind raced. Blaze's tests were escalating, his demands shrouded in mystery. She was rising, but at what price? The plane would leave in 12 hours, and with it, her chance to uncover the truth, or lose herself completely. Zarya stood in the penthouse, the anonymous email's words searing her mind. Ask him about Project Echelon. The black card lay on the table, its gold lettering glinting like a dare. Her suitcase for Dubai sat half-packed, but the cryptic message had rooted her in place. Who was watching her? And what was Echelon? The city's skyline sparkled beyond the windows, indifferent to the storm brewing in her heart. She needed answers, but every step deeper into Blaze Remington's world felt like a gamble with her soul. Her phone buzzed, snapping her back. A text from Blaze. "Car picks you up at 6 a.m. Don't be late." The command was curt, his control palpable even through text. Zarya's fingers hovered over the keyboard, tempted to ask about Echelon, but Camille's warning echoed. Blaze doesn't give without taking. She couldn't tip her hand, not yet. The next morning, the private jet to Dubai was a cocoon of luxury. Leather seats, crystal glassware, a flight attendant who anticipated her every need. Blaze sat across from her, reviewing documents, his expression unreadable. "You're quiet," he said without looking up. "Nervous?" "Curious," Zarya replied, choosing her words carefully. "About why I'm here?" He glanced at her, his eyes sharp. "You're here because I see potential. Don't waste it." The conversation ended there, but his gaze lingered, heavy with expectation. In Dubai, the opulence intensified. Their hotel was a palace of glass and gold, and Zarya was thrust into high-stakes meetings with global investors. Blaze introduced her as essential to Remtech's future, his hand grazing her back as he spoke. Each touch, each word tightened the web around her. That evening, at a rooftop reception under a starlit desert sky, Zarya excused herself to the restroom, needing a moment to breathe. As she passed a secluded alcove, she heard Blaze's voice, low and heated, on a phone call. She froze, her pulse spiking. "Winston, I told you it's under control," Blaze snapped. "She's not a problem. She's an asset. Just keep your end clean." Zarya pressed herself against the wall, barely breathing. Who was Winston, And was she her? No, I haven't told her about Echelon, Blaze continued, his tone icy. She'll know when she needs to. Stick to the plan, or you'll regret it. The call ended, and Zarya slipped away before Blaze could spot her. Her mind raced. Echelon wasn't just a name. It was a secret one Blaze was guarding fiercely. Back at the reception, she played her part, smiling through small talk, but the overheard conversation gnawed at her. Camille's words rang truer than ever. That card? It's a leash. The next day, back in their hotel suite, Blaze was called away for an urgent meeting, leaving Zarya alone with his laptop on the desk. The temptation was overwhelming. She hesitated, her moral compass warring with her need for truth. If Echelon was the key to understanding Blaze's motives, she couldn't ignore it. With a glance at the door, she opened the laptop. It was locked, but a post-it note tucked under the keyboard held a string of numbers. A careless oversight or a deliberate test? Her hands trembled as she typed the code. The screen unlocked, revealing a folder labeled Echelon. Inside were encrypted files, but one document was accessible, a profile with a woman's photo. Zarya's breath caught. The woman was stunning. Caramel skin, fierce eyes, a smile that mirrored Zarya's own. Her name was Elise Carver, Blaze's ex-fiancée, who, according to a news clipping attached, had vanished 5 years ago after their engagement ended. The article hinted at foul play, but lacked evidence. A single line in the profile chilled Zarya. Subject terminated from Echelon Protocol. Terminated. Her heart pounded. Was Elise dead? And why did Zarya feel like she was staring at a ghost of herself? The similarities, race, ambition, even their style, were uncanny. Was she a replacement, handpicked to fill Elise's shoes? Or worse, was she next? The suite's door clicked open, and Zarya slammed the laptop shut, spinning to face Blaze. He stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Find something interesting?" he asked, his voice dangerously calm. "I was just checking emails," she lied, her throat dry. He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "Curiosity is a virtue, Zarya, but it can also be a liability." She forced a smile, her pulse hammering. "I'm just trying to keep up with you." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Good. We have a dinner tonight. Be ready." As he left, Zarya's knees buckled. She'd crossed a line, and Blaze knew it. The question was how much he suspected, and what he'd do about it. That night, at a lavish dinner with Dubai's elite, Zarya's mind was elsewhere. Blaze's charm was on full display, but his glances her way felt like warnings. Camille's voice haunted her. "Don't let him rewrite you." Across the table, a man caught her eye, older, grizzled, with a scar above his brow. He introduced himself as Winston Hargrove, a Remtech board member. Zarya's blood ran cold. This was the Winston from Blaze's call. "Miss Monroe," Winston said, his smile tight. "Blaze speaks highly of you. You remind me of someone we used to know." Her stomach twisted. "Oh? Who's that?" His eyes flickered to Blaze, then back to her. "Just someone who didn't last." The words landed like a punch. Zarya excused herself, retreating to the balcony. The desert air was cool, but her skin burned with dread. Elise's disappearance, Echelon, Winston's veiled threat. It was all connected, and she was trapped in the center. Her phone buzzed. Another anonymous email. "Elise found out too much. Leave before you do." Attached was a grainy photo of Elise, laughing at a gala, Blaze's arm around her. The date was 6 years ago, but the setting was eerily familiar. The Met, where Zarya's own journey with Blaze began. Back in the dining room, Blaze caught her eye, his expression a mix of expectation and something darker. "Everything all right?" he asked, his voice low. "Perfect," she lied, her heart racing. But it wasn't. Elise's ghost was closing in, and Zaria was running out of time to uncover the truth. Was she a pawn in Blaze's game, or had she been chosen for something far worse? The flight back to New York loomed, and with it, a reckoning she wasn't sure she could face. If you learned the person elevating you had a dark secret, would you walk away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Zaria's hands shook as she clutched her phone, the anonymous email's warning burning into her. Elise found out too much. Leave before you do. The photo of Elise and Blaze at the Met, so eerily similar to her own night there, felt like a noose tightening. Winston's cryptic words at the Dubai dinner, "someone who didn't last," echoed in her mind as she boarded the private jet back to New York with Blaze. He sat across from her, his face a mask of calm, but his silence was a blade, slicing through her resolve. She wanted to confront him about Elise, about Echelon, but the weight of his gaze kept her quiet. Every moment with him felt like a test. She was failing. Back in Manhattan, the penthouse was no longer a sanctuary, but a gilded cage. Zaria lay awake, the black card on the nightstand a constant reminder of the deal she hadn't fully understood. Blaze's empire was a labyrinth, and she was lost in it, chasing shadows of a woman who'd vanished. The next day he summoned her to his office, his demeanor colder than ever. "You've been distracted," he said, leaning back in his chair, the city sprawling behind him. "I need your focus, Zaria. Now more than ever." "I'm trying," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside. "But I need to know what I'm really doing here." He stood, circling her like a predator. "You're building a future. Mine, yours, ours. Isn't that enough?" The word ours hung in the air, heavy with implication. Before she could respond, his phone rang, and he dismissed her with a curt nod. As she left, her heart pounded. Blaze was pulling her closer, but the closer she got, the more dangerous it felt. That evening, Blaze invited her to a private dinner at his Upper East Side townhouse. The setting was intimate, candlelight, soft jazz, a table set for two. Zaria arrived in a black dress from the penthouse closet, her nerves frayed but her resolve firm. She'd play his game, but she'd watch for cracks in his armor. "You look like you belong here," Blaze said, pouring her wine. His eyes, usually so guarded, held a flicker of something softer. "Do I?" she asked, her tone light but probing. "Or am I just filling a role?" He paused, his glass halfway to his lips. "You're not like anyone else, Zaria. That's why you're here." The conversation flowed, but beneath the surface, tension simmered. After dessert, Blaze led her to a study lined with books and leather. He poured scotch, his movements deliberate, and sat beside her on a velvet sofa. The air between them crackled. "I don't let people in," he said suddenly, his voice raw. "I built everything, Remtech, this life to forget. But your presence reminds me I'm still human." Zaria's breath caught. His vulnerability was disarming, a glimpse behind the billionaire's mask. "Forget what?" she asked, leaning closer. He looked at her, his eyes haunted. "Loss, betrayal, things you can't outrun." For a moment she saw not the ruthless CEO but a man carrying wounds she couldn't name. Her own pain, years of struggle, the weight of being the only one like her in every room, mirrored his. When he reached for her hand, she didn't pull away. His touch was electric, and when he kissed her, it was desperate, hungry, as if she were his salvation. They made love on the sofa, intense and emotional, their bodies saying what words couldn't. Zaria gave herself to the moment, swept up in the passion, the connection, the fleeting sense that she was more than a pawn. But the next morning she woke alone in his bed, the sheets cold. Blaze stood by the window, fully dressed, his back to her. "Get dressed," he said, his voice devoid of warmth. "We have work to do." The shift was jarring, his vulnerability gone like a dream. Zarya dressed in silence, her heart aching. Had last night meant nothing, or was it another move in his game? At Remtech, Blaze announced her promotion to junior executive, a role that thrust her into the company's inner circle. The news stunned her colleagues, especially Ethan, the blonde intern who'd warned her about playing with fire. His glare was venomous, but Zarya barely noticed. Her mind was on Blaze's coldness and the mystery of Elise. Her new role came with a corner office and access to sensitive projects, but it also brought a new enemy. Preston Vale, a senior executive with slick hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. Preston was Blaze's right hand, but his deference to the CEO felt performative. At her first board meeting, he questioned her analysis in front of everyone, his tone dripping with condescension. "Interesting take, Miss Monroe," he said, leaning back, "but perhaps a bit optimistic for someone so new." Zarya held his gaze. "Data doesn't lie, Mr. Vale." "Maybe you're just not used to hearing it unfiltered." A murmur rippled through the room. Blaze's lips twitched, but he said nothing. After the meeting, Preston cornered her in the hallway. "You're out of your depth," he hissed. "Enjoy the view while it lasts." The sabotage began subtly. Zarya found emails in her sent folder she hadn't written, messages to clients with errors or unprofessional tones. Her reports were altered, figures skewed to make her look incompetent. Whispers spread among the staff, accusing her of sleeping her way to the top. The smear campaign was meticulous, and Zarya knew Preston was behind it. She confronted him in his office, her anger barely contained. "You're scared I'll win," she said, her voice low and fierce. "Not because I'm not qualified, but because I am." Preston laughed, leaning back in his chair. "You're a distraction, Zarya. Blaze's pet project, but pets get discarded when they're no longer useful." His words cut deep, echoing her fears about Elise. That night, Zarya dug deeper, hacking into Remtech's internal server with skills she'd honed in college. She found a hidden file labeled Echelon Oversight, containing correspondence between Blaze and Winston. One email referenced Elise. Her termination was necessary. The protocol cannot fail again. Another mentioned Zarya. Subject shows promise but requires closer monitoring. Her blood ran cold. Was she a subject in some experiment? And what did termination mean? The files hinted at Echelon as a covert project involving AI and global influence, but the details were encrypted. Zarya's promotion, the card, the penthouse. It was all part of a larger plan, and Preston's sabotage was likely meant to keep her in line. She confided in Camille over coffee, her voice trembling. "I think Blaze is using me to replace someone he lost. And Preston's trying to bury me before I figure out why." Camille's eyes narrowed. "You're in too deep, Zarya. If Echelon's what I think it is, it's bigger than Remtech. You need to get out." "I can't," Zarya said, her voice breaking. "Not until I know the truth. I won't let them break me." Camille sighed. "Then be smarter than Elise. She trusted Blaze, and it cost her everything." That night, Zarya received another anonymous email. "Check Preston's office, drawer 3. Her heart raced. Was this a trap or a lifeline? She waited until midnight, sneaking into Remtech's headquarters with her executive keycard. Preston's office was locked, but she picked it with a hairpin, her hands steady despite her fear. In the third drawer, she found a burner phone and a USB drive. The USB contained audio files, recordings of Blay and Winston discussing Echelon. "The algorithm needs a human interface," Blaze said. "Zarya's perfect. She's driven, loyal, and expendable." Winston's reply was chilling, like Elise was. Until she wasn't. Zaria's knees buckled. Expendable. The word seared her soul. Blaze vulnerability, their night together. It was all manipulation, a way to bind her to him. And Preston's sabotage was likely ordered by Blaze to test her resilience. As she slipped out of the office, her phone buzzed. A text from Blaze. "We need to talk." Now, her heart stopped. Had he caught her? Or was this about last night? She was running out of moves, and the truth about Echelon was closer and more dangerous than ever. If you discovered you were a pawn in a billionaire's game, would you fight or flee? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Zaria's heart thundered as she stared at Blaze's text. "We need to talk." Now, the burner phone and USB drive, heavy with the truth about Echelon, burned in her purse. Blaze's voice from the recordings echoed in her mind, expendable, like Elise was. Each word a betrayal that cut deeper than his coldness after their night together. She'd snuck out of Preston's office undetected, but the weight of her discovery made every shadow feel like a threat. Was Blaze summoning her because he knew she'd hacked the server? Or was this another test in his endless game? She met him at his townhouse, the same place where candlelight and vulnerability had briefly bridged their worlds. Now the air was thick with tension. Blaze stood by the fireplace, his silhouette sharp against the flames. "You've been busy," he said, his voice low, eyes dissecting her. Zaria's pulse spiked, but she kept her face neutral. "Just doing my job, Mr. Remington." He stepped closer, his gaze unrelenting. "Don't play coy, Zaria. I know you're digging. The question is, are you ready for what you'll find?" Her throat tightened. He was baiting her, but she couldn't tell how much he knew. "I'm ready for the truth," she said, holding his stare. "Are you?" A flicker of something, amusement, respect, crossed his face before he turned away. "We'll see," he said, pouring a drink. "Tomorrow you'll have a chance to prove it." The next morning, Blaze's driver took Zaria to a nondescript building in Lower Manhattan, its plain exterior hiding a high-security interior. Blaze was waiting in a conference room, flanked by two lawyers in crisp suits. The air was heavy, the kind of quiet that precedes a storm. He gestured to a chair. "Sit. We have work to do." "What is this?" Zaria asked, her voice steady despite the dread pooling in her gut. Blaze leaned forward, his eyes locking onto hers. "This is your moment, Zaria. I need your voice." One of the lawyers slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents detailing a secret deposition against Victor Langston, a rival tech mogul whose company, NextGen, was challenging Remtech's dominance. The accusations were explosive, fraud, insider trading, even ties to illegal data harvesting. Zaria's name was listed as a key witness, her signature already forged on a preliminary statement. Her stomach dropped. "You want me to testify against Langston? I don't even know him." "You don't need to," Blaze said, his tone smooth but unyielding. "You've seen enough at Remtech to make this credible. Your testimony will seal it." She pushed the folder away. "This is fabricated. I won't lie under oath." Blaze's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "This isn't about lying. It's about loyalty. Langston's a threat. To me, to Remtech, to everything we're building. You're part of that now." Zaria stood, her anger flaring. "Or you need my loyalty, no matter the cost." "What happens when I'm done being useful, Blaze, like Elise was?" The room went still. The lawyers exchanged glances, but Blaze's expression didn't waver. "Careful, Zaria," he said softly. "You're treading dangerous ground." "Am I?" she shot back. "I know about Echelon. I know Elise was part of it. And I know you called her expendable. Is that what I am to you?" For a moment, something raw flashed in his eyes, guilt, pain, or maybe just surprise. but it vanished as quickly as it came. Elise made choices, he said. You still have yours. Testify and you're untouchable, part of my inner circle with power most only dream of. Refuse and you're on your own. The ultimatum hung between them, sharp as a blade. Zaria's mind raced. Testifying would tie her to Blaze's lies, but refusing could cost her everything, the promotion, the penthouse, maybe even her safety. The USB in her purse held proof of Echelon's secrets, but exposing it without a plan was suicide, and Camille's warning lingered. Be smarter than Elise. I need time, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. You have until tomorrow, Blaze said, standing. Don't disappoint me. Back in the penthouse, Zaria paced, the city's lights blurring through her tears. The deposition was a trap, a way to bind her to Blaze's empire, or destroy her if she resisted. She opened her laptop and plugged in the USB, listening again to Blaze's voice. The algorithm needs a human interface. Zaria's perfect. Echelon wasn't just a project, it was a machine, and she was its fuel. But why? And what had Elise discovered that cost her life? Her phone buzzed, an anonymous text. Langston's office. Midnight. Come alone. Her heart pounded. Was this the same source who'd sent her to Preston's drawer, or a setup? She thought of Camille, but calling her risked exposing her only ally. Zaria was alone, and time was slipping away. At midnight, she slipped into Langston's headquarters, a sleek tower in Midtown. The security guard, expecting her, waved her through. In a dimly lit office, Victor Langston waited, a wiry man in his 50s with sharp eyes and a tired smile. Ms. Monroe, he said, gesturing to a chair. I hear you're in a bind. How do you know me? Zaria asked, her guard up. Mutual friends, he said cryptically. Blaze is using you to bury me, but I have something you need, proof that Echelon is more than a corporate secret. He slid a tablet across the desk, showing grainy footage of a woman, Elise, arguing with Blaze in a lab. Echelon's an AI designed to control markets, elections, minds, Langston said. Elise found out and threatened to expose it. Blaze couldn't let that happen. Zaria's chest tightened. What happened to her? Langston's eyes darkened. She's gone, and you're next unless you play this smart. He offered her a deal, testify against Blaze instead, using the USB's evidence to bring him down. In return, NextGen would protect her. But Zaria hesitated. Langston's sincerity felt too polished, his motives as murky as Blaze. Was he her savior or another puppeteer? As she left, her phone buzzed again. Blaze, where are you? Her blood ran cold. Had he tracked her? The city felt like a cage, every corner hiding eyes. She had until morning to choose. Lie for Blaze, betray him with Langston, or find a third path that might not exist. Zaria's breath caught as Blaze's text lit up her phone. Where are you? The question felt like a trap, his reach extending through the city's shadows. She stood outside Victor Langston's Midtown tower, the weight of his offer pressing against her. Testify against Blaze, expose Echelon, and NextGen would shield her, or so Langston claimed. But his polished sincerity mirrored Blaze too closely, and Zaria's gut screamed she was still a pawn, just on a different board. The USB drive in her purse held damning evidence, but using it meant gambling with her life. Elise's fate loomed like a warning. She's gone, and you're next unless you play this smart. She slipped into a cab, her mind racing. Blaze's ultimatum, testify against Langston or lose everything, expired at dawn. Langston's counteroffer was just as fraught, promising safety but demanding betrayal. Zaria needed a way out, a third path, but the city felt like a closing vice. Her phone buzzed again, another anonymous message. Check your email. Now. Her heart pounded. Was this the same source guiding her to Preston's office, or another player in this deadly game? Back in the penthouse, Zaria opened her laptop, her hands trembling. The email contained a single attachment, a dossier labeled Zaria Monroe. It was a detailed investigation of her life, her childhood in South Carolina, her mother's diner shifts, her college loans, even her failed coding exam. Every struggle, every triumph was catalogued with clinical precision. The report was dated months before her Remtech internship began, commissioned by Blaze Remington. Her stomach churned. Blaze hadn't chosen her for her resume or her fire. He dissected her life, picking her like a lab specimen. The black card, the penthouse, the promotion, all calculated moves to exploit her hunger, her vulnerabilities. Their night together, his raw confession about loss, now felt like a scripted performance. Her trust in him shattered, leaving only rage and dread. She paced the penthouse, the city's skyline mocking her naivety. Blay had known her every weakness before she'd even stepped into his boardroom. Was Echelon's human interface chosen because of her drive, or because she was expendable, a woman with no powerful allies, easy to erase like Elise? The dossier's final page chilled her, a note in Blay's handwriting. Subject ideal for Echelon. Monitor closely for compliance. Compliance. The word burned. She thought of Camille's warning, don't let him rewrite you. But Blaze had been rewriting her from the start, molding her into his perfect tool. The deposition against Langston was just another step, binding her to his lies, or marking her for disposal if she refused. Her phone rang, Blaze's name flashing. She let it go to voicemail, her heart racing. Zaria, his voice purred through the speaker. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Meet me at the office. 1 hour. The threat was veiled but clear. He knew she was slipping from his grasp. Desperate for clarity, Zaria called Camille, her only anchor. He investigated me, she blurted, her voice breaking. Before I even got here, everything, my life, my mom, my mistakes. I'm just a piece in his puzzle. Camille's sigh was heavy. I told you, Zaria, Blay doesn't play fair. Whatever Echelon is, it's his endgame, and you're in too deep to just walk away. What do I do? Zaria asked, tears stinging her eyes. He wants me to lie in a deposition. Langston wants me to betray him. And I found proof. Blaze called me expendable. Listen, Camille said, her voice urgent. You've got that USB. Use it, but not with Langston. He's no saint. Find someone outside their war, a journalist, a regulator, someone who can't be bought. But you need to move fast. Blaze doesn't wait. Zaria hung up, her resolve hardening. She couldn't trust Blaze or Langston, but she could trust herself. The USB was her leverage, but exposing Echelon without protection was suicide. She needed a plan, and she needed it now. She arrived at Remtech's headquarters, the glass tower looming like a fortress. Blay waited in his office, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. You're late, he said, gesturing to a chair. Care to explain where you've been? I've been thinking, Zaria said, sitting, her voice steady despite the storm inside. About loyalty, about what you really want from me. He leaned forward, his gaze piercing. I want your trust, Zaria. I've given you everything, money, power, a future. Why are you fighting me? Because you lied, she said, her anger spilling out. You dug into my life before I even met you. You chose me because I was easy to control, didn't you? Just like Elise. Blaze's face hardened, but he didn't deny it. Elise was a mistake. She couldn't handle the truth. You're stronger. Strong enough to be your puppet, she shot back. I found the dossier, Blaze. I know I'm just a tool for Echelon. Tell me what it is, or I walk. He stood, circling the desk, his presence suffocating. You don't walk away from me, Zaria. Echelon is the future. Control, order, power. You can be part of it, or you can be nothing. Her heart pounded, but she held her ground. I'd rather be nothing than your lie. For a moment, silence stretched between them, electric with tension. Then Blaze's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. We'll finish this later, he said, dismissing her. Don't do anything stupid. As she left, her phone vibrated. An anonymous text. Preston's meeting. Winston. Rooftop. Now her pulse surged. Preston's sabotage had been a thorn, but Winston's involvement in Echelon tied him to Elise's fate. This could be her chance to uncover more. She took the elevator to the rooftop, staying in the shadows. Preston and Winston stood near the edge, their voices low but heated. She's getting too close, Preston said. If she talks, Echelon's exposed. Then handle it, Winston snapped. Blaze won't tolerate another Elise. Zaria's blood ran cold. They were plotting against her, just as they had against Elise. She backed away, her mind racing. Blaze's betrayal, Preston's sabotage, Winston's threats. It was all closing in. She had the USB, but no safe way to use it. Camille's advice echoed, find someone who can't be bought. As she slipped back to the penthouse, her resolve solidified. She wouldn't testify for Blaze or Langston. She'd find a journalist, someone with reach and integrity, and expose Echelon on her terms. But Blaze was watching, and time was running out. The dossier had stripped her trust, but it had also lit a fire. She wasn't expendable. She was a threat, and she'd make them all see it. Could you love someone who violated your privacy for power? Zaria's heart pounded as she slipped out of Remtech's headquarters, the rooftop conversation between Preston and Winston searing her mind. If she talks, Echelon's exposed. Handle it. The USB drive in her purse felt like a ticking bomb, its recordings of Blaze's plans for Echelon, control, order, power, her only weapon against a machine that had already claimed Elise. Blaze's betrayal, revealed in the dossier that dissected her life before she'd even met him, had shattered her trust. She wasn't his protégé, she was his pawn, chosen for her vulnerabilities and marked as expendable. Camille's advice rang clear. Find someone who can't be bought. A journalist, a regulator, someone to expose Echelon without tying her to Blaze or Langston's wars. But with Blaze's ultimatum looming and Preston's threat circling, time was a luxury she didn't have. In the penthouse, Zaria paced, the black card glinting on the table like a taunt. Her phone buzzed, an anonymous email. Meet at the Rusty Anchor, Brooklyn. 10 p.m. Come alone. Her pulse spiked. Was this her source, the one who'd led her to Preston's office in the dossier? Or another trap? She thought of Camille, but reaching out now risked exposing her ally. Zaria was alone, and every choice felt like a step toward a cliff. She arrived at the Rusty Anchor, a dimly lit bar with peeling paint, and a jukebox crooning Old Soul. The crowd was sparse, blue-collar locals nursing beers. At a corner booth sat a man she hadn't seen in years, Noah Carter, her college boyfriend. His familiar brown eyes and easy smile hit her like a wave, pulling her back to late-night study sessions and dreams of building a tech startup together. But Noah had stayed in South Carolina, tethered to family, while Zaria chased her ambitions in New York. Their breakup had been mutual but raw, a wound she'd buried. Zaria, he said, standing, his voice warm but cautious. You look different. She slid into the booth, her guard up. What are you doing here, Noah? He leaned forward, his calloused hands clasped. I heard you were in deep with Remtech. Word travels even back home. I came to check on you. Her chest tightened. You just showed up in Brooklyn, after 3 years. Not exactly, he admitted, glancing around. Someone reached out. An anonymous tip said you were in trouble. I've got connections now, Zaria. Investors who believe in me. In us. Us? She echoed, her voice sharp. There's no us anymore. There could be, he said, his eyes searching hers. I'm building something, a tech platform, ethical, community-driven. I've got funding, but I need a partner. You were always the brain, Z. Come with me. Leave this mess and build your dream, the way we planned. The offer stunned her. Noah was offering a new life, a chance to reclaim the vision she'd had before Blaze's world consumed her. But the timing felt too convenient, his presence orchestrated. Who sent you? She asked, her tone hardening. I don't know, he said, raising his hands. The email was encrypted, but they knew details about you, about Remtech. Zaria, you're in over your head. I can see it in your eyes. She wanted to believe him, to grasp the lifeline he offered. But Blaze's dossier had taught her trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. You don't know what I'm dealing with, she said, her voice low. This isn't just a job. It's bigger. Then tell me, he pressed. Let me help. She hesitated, the USB burning in her purse. Noah's sincerity tugged at her, but the anonymous tip smelled of manipulation, Blaze, Langston, or someone else pulling strings. I can't, she said finally. Not yet. Noah's face fell, but he nodded. I'm at the Marriott in Dumbo. 2 days, then I'm gone. Think about it, Zaria. You don't have to do this alone. She left the bar, her mind a battlefield. Noah's offer was a door to the past, to the woman she'd been before Blaze gilded cage. But Blaze's future, power, influence, a seat at the table, was intoxicating, even laced with risk. Echelon's secrets tied her to him, but exposing them could free her or destroy her. The choice was hers, but it felt like choosing between two fires. Back at the penthouse, her phone buzzed. Blaze. My office. Now her stomach knotted. Had he tracked her to the bar? Or was this about the deposition? She arrived at Remtech, the glass tower a monolith in the midnight rain. Blaze stood by his office window, his silhouette stark against the city's glow. You've been busy, he said, not turning. Care to share? Her pulse raced, but she kept her voice steady. Just clearing my head. It's been a long week. He faced her, his eyes cold. Don't lie to me, Zaria. I know you met someone tonight. Who was it? Her blood ran cold. He was watching, always watching. An old friend, she said, deflecting. Nothing to do with you. Everything you do concerns me, he said, stepping closer. You're part of something bigger now. Echelon isn't just a project, it's the future. You can shape it with me, or you can be crushed by it. Her anger flared. Like Elise was? I know you used her, Blaze, just like you're using me. The dossier, the surveillance, you planned this from the start. For a moment his mask slipped, revealing something raw, regret maybe, or defiance. Elise chose her path, he said. She couldn't see the vision. You can. Testify against Langston and you're in. Walk away and you lose everything. The ultimatum was a blade at her throat. Noah's offer flickered in her mind, a clean slate, a chance to build something pure. But Blaze's world, for all its darkness, held power she'd tasted and craved. The USB could topple him, but without a safe outlet, it was a death sentence. She thought of her mother, her sacrifices, and the promise to make her proud. Could she do that by fleeing with Noah, or by fighting Blaze from within? I need until tomorrow, she said, her voice firm. Blaze studied her, then nodded. Dawn, don't make me regret trusting you. As she left, her phone buzzed, an anonymous text. Noah's hotel. Check his laptop. Her heart sank. Was Noah part of this? She took a cab to the Marriott, her mind spinning. The front desk, bribed with a flash of the black card, gave her his room number. Noah was out, and the door's lock yielded to her hairpin skills. His laptop was open, an email draft on the screen. It was addressed to an unknown recipient. She's wavering. Push harder. Attached was a photo of Zarya at the rusty anchor. Her breath caught. Noah wasn't her savior. He was another player, sent to pull her away from Blaze. The anonymous tip had been a setup, but by whom? Langston? Preston? Or Blaze himself testing her loyalty? She fled the hotel, tears stinging her eyes. Noah's betrayal cut deep, severing her last tie to the past. Blaze's future was a gamble, but it was the only path left. She clutched the USB, her resolve hardening. She'd find a journalist, expose Echelon, and burn Blaze's empire down, but on her terms, not Langston's or Noah's. Dawn was hours away, and her choice was clear: fight or fall. She wouldn't fall. Zarya's hands trembled as she clutched the USB drive, the sting of Noah's betrayal still raw. His laptop had exposed him as another puppet in the Echelon game, his offer of a new life just a ploy to pull her from Blaze's orbit. The anonymous tip that led her to Noah's hotel room was a calculated move. By Blaze, Langston, or someone else entirely. She couldn't be sure. The penthouse, once a symbol of her rise, now felt like a trap, its opulent walls closing in as dawn approached. Blaze's ultimatum loomed: testify against Langston or lose everything. But the USB's recordings, proof of Echelon's sinister AI designed to control markets and minds, gave her leverage, if she could find a way to use it without becoming another Elise. Her phone buzzed, shattering the silence. It was Camille, her voice frantic. "Zarya, I'm at my apartment. Someone broke in, trashed everything. I'm okay, but I was digging into Blaze's past. I think they know." Zarya's blood ran cold. "Stay there, I'm coming." She grabbed her coat and raced to Camille's Brooklyn walk-up, her mind spinning. Camille had warned her about Blaze, urged her to find an outsider to expose Echelon. Had her digging triggered this attack? The cab ride felt endless, the city's lights blurring through her fear. When she arrived, Camille was shaken but unharmed, her apartment a wreck, bookshelves toppled, laptops smashed, papers strewn across the floor. "They were looking for something," Camille said, her voice trembling. "I found old articles about Blaze's family, stuff he buried deep. Then this." Zarya's heart pounded. "What did you find?" Camille hesitated, glancing at the shattered window. His sister, Lena, died young under weird circumstances. Blaze was never the same after. It's like he built Remtech to control everything he couldn't back then. Zarya's stomach twisted. Blaze's vulnerability that night in his townhouse, his talk of loss, suddenly had a name. But Camille's attack was a warning, and Zarya couldn't ignore the timing. "You need to lay low," she said. "This is on me. I dragged you into this." "No," Camille snapped. "I chose to help. But you need to end this, Zarya. Use that USB. Find someone clean. A journalist, not Langston. Blaze will burn you both if you don't." Zarya nodded, her resolve hardening. Camille was right, but confronting Blaze was the only way to buy time. She left Camille with a promise to check in and headed to Remtech, the USB a heavy weight in her purse. Dawn was breaking, the city stirring as she entered Blaze's office. He stood by the window, his silhouette stark against the rising sun, as if he'd been waiting. "You're cutting it close," he said, turning, his eyes cold. "Have you made your choice?" Zarya stepped forward, her anger surging. "What else have you buried, Blaze? How many truths do I have to unearth before you tell me one on your own?" His brow furrowed, but he didn't flinch. "Be specific, Zarya." "I don't play games." "Camille was attacked," she said, her voice shaking. "Her place was trashed because she looked into your past. Your sister, Lena, what happened to her? And what does it have to do with Echelon? For the first time, Blaze's composure cracked. His jaw tightened, and he turned back to the window, his silence heavy. When he spoke, his voice was low, raw. Lena was everything. My little sister, barely 16. She got sick, rare cancer, untreatable. I was 20, scraping by, powerless to save her. I watched her fade, Zarya. That kind of helplessness. It changes you. Zarya's breath caught. The pain in his voice was real, a wound that hadn't healed. I'm sorry, she said softly. But why hide it? Why build Echelon? He faced her, his eyes haunted. Because I swore I'd never be powerless again. Echelon isn't just AI, it's control over chaos, markets, governments, lives. I built it to protect what matters, to stop the world from taking what's mine. But it demands sacrifices. Like Elise, Zarya pressed. Like me. Blaze's gaze hardened. Elise wanted to tear it down. She didn't understand. You do, or you could. Testify against Langston, and you're part of this. Refuse, and you're a threat. Her heart raced. His confession explained his drive, but not his cruelty. The dossier, the surveillance, Camille's attack. His need for control had twisted him, and she was caught in its grip. You investigated me, she said. You chose me because I was easy to manipulate. How is that protection? I chose you because you're strong, he said, stepping closer, like Lena was. You fight, Zarya. I need that, but I can't let you destroy what I've built. The USB felt like a live wire in her purse. She could expose him now, walk away with Camille's plan to find a journalist, but his pain, his vision, tugged at her. She'd tasted his world, power, influence, and part of her still craved it, despite the cost. I won't lie for you, she said finally, but I'm not your enemy. Tell me everything, Echelon, Elise, all of it, or I'm done. Blaze studied her, his expression unreadable. You're not ready for everything, he said, but I'll give you this. Echelon's bigger than me. Winston, Preston, they're part of it, but there's more. Walk away and they'll come for you. Stay and I'll protect you. His words were a lifeline and a threat, blurring the line between savior and captor. Zarya's mind raced. Camille's attack, Noah's betrayal, the dossier. Every step had been orchestrated, and she was running out of moves. The USB was her only card, but using it meant trusting someone new, and trust was a currency she'd spent. I need time, she said, her voice steady. You're out of it, Blaze said, his tone final. Langston's deposition is tomorrow. Choose now. As she left, her phone buzzed, an anonymous text. Camille's safe. But they're watching you. Run. Her blood ran cold. Was this her source or another trap? She thought of her mother, her sacrifices, and the promise to make her proud. Blaze's world offered power, but at the cost of her soul. Camille's plan, a journalist, a clean break, was her last hope, but the clock was ticking. Zarya's pulse thundered as she clutched her phone, the anonymous text searing her mind. Camille's safe. But they're watching you. Run. Blaze's confession about his sister Lena had cracked his armor, revealing a man shaped by loss, but his ultimatum, testify against Langston or face Echelon's wrath, left her no room to breathe. The USB drive in her purse held the truth about Echelon's AI, a weapon that could topple Blaze's empire, but exposing it without protection risked her life. Camille's attack and Noah's betrayal had stripped her trust, leaving her alone in a city that felt like a chessboard. Dawn was hours away, and Blaze's deadline loomed. She had to choose, stay in his world, bound by his rules, or walk away and fight on her terms. She returned to the penthouse, the black card a mocking weight on the table. Camille's advice echoed, Find a journalist, someone clean. Zarya opened her laptop, researching investigative reporters with a track record of taking on corporate giants. One name stood out: Lila Harper, a Pulitzer winner known for exposing tech monopolies. Zarya drafted an encrypted email attaching a sample of the USB's audio, Blaze's voice calling her expendable. She didn't send it, not yet. She needed a plan to disappear after the drop, somewhere Winston and Preston couldn't reach her. Her phone rang. Blaze. She ignored it, her resolve hardening. She packed a small bag, leaving the designer clothes and the card behind. The penthouse, the jets, the power. It was all a gilded cage, and she was done being his bird. As she stepped into the elevator, her heart ached for the woman she'd been, the one who'd walked into Remtech with dreams, not doubts. But that woman was gone, forged into someone stronger by betrayal. She took a cab to a cheap motel in Queens, paying cash to avoid a trail. Alone in the dim room, she finalized her email to Lila Harper, setting a meeting for the next day at a crowded diner. The USB would be her redemption, a way to honor Elise and protect others from Echelon's reach. But as she hit send, a knock at the door froze her. Her breath caught, fearing Winston's men. Instead, it was Blay. "How did you find me?" she demanded, stepping back. "I know you, Zarya," he said, his voice softer than she'd ever heard. "I've always known you." He looked different. No suit, just a sweater and jeans, his eyes heavy with something like regret. "I'm not here to drag you back," he said. "I'm here to let you go." Her guard stayed up. "Why should I believe you?" He pulled a folder from his coat and handed it to her. Inside was a legal document transferring full ownership of Remtech's consumer tech division, worth billions, to her name, effective immediately. No strings, no echelon, just her vision to shape. "This is yours," he said, "not because I want your loyalty, but because you deserve it." Zarya's hands shook. "You think this fixes everything? The dossier, Elise, Camille's attack?" "No," he said, stepping closer. "Nothing fixes that. I built Echelon to control the world so I'd never lose again." "But I lost you, Zarya. That's worse." His words hit like a wave, stirring the memory of their first night, raw, desperate, real. She wanted to hate him, but the pain in his eyes mirrored her own. "Why now?" she asked, her voice breaking. "After everything?" "Because Lena taught me something," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Love means letting go even when it kills you. I'm not asking you to stay. I'm asking you to be free." Tears stung her eyes. She thought of her mother, her sacrifices, and the promise to make her proud. The tech division was a chance to build something ethical, to honor that promise without Blaze's shadow. But his vulnerability, stripped of power games, tugged at her heart. She'd loved him once, in that fleeting moment of truth, and part of her still did. She set the folder down and stepped toward him. "I'm walking away," she said, her voice steady. "Not because I hate you, but because I have to be me." He nodded, his eyes glistening. "I know." They stood in the cramped motel room, the hum of the city outside a quiet backdrop. No penthouse, no champagne, just two people, broken but honest. She reached for his hand and he pulled her close, their embrace gentle, warm, a tether to what might have been. When they kissed, it was slow, unguarded, a farewell to the lies that had bound them. They made love on the narrow bed, not with the intensity of their first night, but with a quiet tenderness that spoke of truth. His touch was soft, her sighs unguarded, their bodies moving in sync without agenda. It wasn't about power or control. It was about closure, about finding peace in the ruins of their trust. Afterward, they lay in silence, his arm around her, the weight of their choices settling like dust. "I sent evidence to a journalist," she said finally, her voice calm. "Echelon's done." He tensed but didn't pull away. "I expected that," he said. "I'll face what comes." She turned to him, searching his face. "Will you run?" "No," he said, his voice firm. "I built this. I'll answer for it." Dawn crept through the blinds, casting slivers of light across the room. Zarya rose, dressing in the clothes she'd arrived in, the folder in her hand. Blaze watched her, his expression a mix of pride and loss. "You'll change the world, Zarya," he said. "Not mine. Yours." She nodded, tears falling. "Goodbye, Blaze." She walked out, the motel door clicking shut behind her. The diner meeting with Lila Harper was hours away, and Echelon's exposure would shake the world. The tech division was hers to shape, a platform for her dreams, ethical, transparent, hers. But as she stepped into the morning light, her heart carried the quiet warmth of their final night, a reminder that even in betrayal, there could be redemption. Can love survive when power, pain, and pride get in the way? Let's talk about it in the comments. Zarya starts her own tech firm. Blaze remains in her life, not as her savior, but as her equal. They build together on truth and love. Thank you for watching, beautiful story family. See you in the next one.